Today I'd like to have a look at modular river sections, so something like this. These are useful if you want to cover quite a large area of terrain. It's a linear, what they class as linear terrain. It doesn't obviously block line of sight, but it does block movement, unless you have a bridge, which we'll look at in a later video, I think. For today I'm just going to show you how I put together a straight section of river like this. In future videos, and yeah, maybe when I do the full battlefield, we'll do some corners as well. The main thing to remember when doing something like this, and this is true of roads as well, is to just make them all sort of the same size. This is 12 inches across. So 3 of these in a row would obviously fit the width of the table that we're looking at. Anyway, the point of this is I only want to use waste material, so I'm just using corrugated cardboard. It's for the base. The only other materials I'm using today are some cheap acrylic paint and some ready mixed filler. The cardboard's going to be glued with a hot glue gun, so we'll see what happens. I've cut a piece of cardboard just out of some packaging. It's probably 3 inches. Yeah, it's 3 inches by 12 inches, hopefully. Yeah. And what I want to do with this is mark the center line. And center line is important because if these are going to line up, the water part of this model needs to be exactly in the center. And what I want is a 1 inch line where the water's going to be. Right, that's fine. This area here is also going to dictate where I put the sides. And speaking of which, I've cut another small, well actually this is just an offcut from here. I'm just going to cut this in half, and this will just form the 2 sides. So, we've got our centre line, which is where the water's going to be. That's going to form the lowest part. It's a bit long. So we're going to glue these like this. I'm just going to trim these down a little bit because they're a bit longer than the base. Now to glue these I'm going to use hot glue because it dries very quickly, it's really strong, and it also doesn't warp the cardboard. But I guess there's no water in the glue. So I just need to some stringy glue there. I just need to run this along the center of this edge. and very quickly, before it dries, push that down. And as soon as that cools, which is now, that's dry. It's great stuff. I got a box of 30 glue sticks for £5. It's also very, very cheap. Right, there we go. So the next step, once that's cooled down, which it has, is to get my ready mixed filler. And we're going to build up the banks so it looks like this. Okay. Leaving that centre inch, well, essentially free of, I need to clean that up, but free of filler. That's where the water's going to go. So I just get my what's that called? Palette knife. I'm just going to run some along the top. You'll go through quite a lot of this filler. Well, you probably go through a lot of this filler with all these projects, but these river sections seem to take quite a lot. You'll find as well, once you've finished, these sections are really, really heavy. Which is good, because something so flat, made of cardboard, would normally move around quite easily on a gaming table. So it does give it some weight, which is good. Just running that knife along the edge to make, I guess it's about a 45-degree angle, but yeah. And then just do the same on the other side, trying to keep it out of the centre as much as you can. It doesn't matter too much, because you don't want it to be a totally flat, straight line. But you do want to create this illusion of depth. I'm going to set that one aside to dry. I would give that a good, well, 12 hours at least. It's quite dense. There's quite a lot of filler on there. I would give it plenty of time to dry. So for the purpose of this video, going to the next step, I'm going to use this other piece that's already dry. Now, painting wise, I want to keep the scheme the same as the building that we made. So the ground is going to be this sort of colour. It's an industrial site, really. It might even be like a small canal, or even like a waste outlet or something. So cheap craft paint, black and white, a piece of plastic for a palette, probably 2 or 3 parts black. To 1 part white, maybe 4 parts black to 1 part white. We'll see what this looks like. Actually, that's the colour I want, so that's quite easy to mix. That looks fine. As with everything that uses highly textured material, you're going to have to scrape this paint into the cracks, so don't use a good brush. I'd recommend making all of the sections that you want to make for this basic set in one go as well. I'm going to make 3 straight sections and either 2 or 3 curved sections for this project. I've settled on a baseboard side of probably 3 by 4 feet. And the river will cross, won't cut across the whole gaming board. It will go from, how do I explain this? It will go from north to south rather than east to west, because you don't want to split the battlefield in half. This has had a few hours to dry. It's totally dry now. I'm gonna take paint that we used before. I've just had it wrapped in a plastic bag, so it's still a bit wet. I'm just going to add some white to that. I'm just going to take off some of the paint and then just brush this over the top of the existing model so that the highlights are picked up. Sorry, so that the raised areas are highlighted, essentially. You'll find as well that as you become more confident, you tend to use the kitchen paper less. Don't need to worry about the central part, which is where the water is going to be. Get some more white. just keep the highlights going. If you find that you want some more highlights, just let this dry and maybe add some neat white. I think that'll be okay actually. Okay. Now I'm going to take another brush and I'm going to use phthalo turquoise, blue-green essentially. This is the first coat for the water. Remember we said we wanted about an inch at the end, so that's your marker. The trick with this step is to keep your brush strokes going from left to right, right to left. That'll give us sort of suggestion of running water, hopefully. When it dries, those lines should be quite prominent. And what I would do is just put as much paint on as you can. Now I'm doing this as kind of an unpleasant water sort of colour for an industrial scene, but there's no reason why you couldn't have this as a more pastoral, you know, mountain stream. Just use a more delicate blue colour. You could do it as lava, in which case obviously you're going to have an orangey red sort of colour. If we're talking about Warhammer 40,000, there's no reason why you couldn't have green goo, to be honest. Okay. That looks good. Right, that just needs to dry again, and we'll come back. To finish it, all I'm going to do is run some, well, put some white paint into the blue colour, the turquoise colour, and run that along the very edges of the water, leaving a dark blue, blue-green in the centre. So if I get the finished section, it just, I don't know, it looks good. I don't know if it's particularly realistic, but it makes sense that the middle is deeper than the edges anyway.